Hi guys, Darth Deuces here, back on our Star Wars The Black Series action figure review. Today, taking a look at a brand new release and one I was really excited for it to finally release. It is the Deluxe Sauvage Opress from the Clone Wars. I've been wanting them to make this character in Black Series for years now. We've had various Darth Mauls and all that, but we haven't gotten Sauvage, and now we have him, and I gotta say, this might be one of Hasbro's best Black Series figures they've ever made. I'm gonna be honest, there's a lot to like here. This is really good. And I know, like, usually a lot of times you buy a deluxe Hasbro figure and you're kind of left wondering if it was worth the price. I feel like this guy was worth the price, man. It's really good. I'm really, really impressed with this. They really killed this release. Anyways, taking a closer look here, it's obviously a realistic interpretation of him, and it's based on his first appearance in the armor. I can't remember the exact episode, but it's before he takes any sort of like physical damage, as he doesn't have the cut off horns and he doesn't have the prosthetic arm. It is a little unfortunate that this specific version of Savage technically doesn't match up well with many other figures that have currently been released. He looks cool with the Clone Wars Darth Maul, but it's technically not accurate. He at the very least should have the, when he's with the current Clone Wars Darth Maul that we have, he should have the horns cut off and have the prosthetic limb. But you know, you can only have so much. But taking a look at the head sculpt, they did a really good job at giving us a realistic interpretation that still looks like the character. The face tattoos are done really well and cleanly for the most part. There's a bit of smudging here at the top, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's not super noticeable because this is actually the first time I noticed it. But the expression's really nice. He's got a bit of a snarl going on, just a subtle one. You can just barely see the teeth peeking out behind the lips there. The eyes with the yellow and red Sith dark side eyes look really good. The yellow is pretty nice and vibrant. The horns look really cool and are well painted and decently sharp for a Hasbro figure. Like, this one's pretty pointy back here, so you're gonna want to be careful of that. But yeah, they really did a good job on the head sculpt. And then the rest of the body and the armor looks really good. They put a lot of paint in this figure because I'm pretty much all of the armor bits and maybe even some of the outfit beyond the armor bits are all actually painted with this really nice dirty sort of wash of weathering. And I love all the sculpted nicks and the dents and scrapes on the armor to make it look worn and used. That looks really good. You've got more of that weathering on the front here, and you've got this bit of a lighter gray trim on the detail of the armor. I'm actually trying to see if there's actually a different color there or not. It actually might not be painted, but still, that sculpted detail looks great. All the armor bits, these armor bits on the forearms, or the biceps rather, look good. The forearm armor, again, looks really great. The hands here, you got these long fingernails that are painted that look really good. On the back here, there's a little bit of the weathering on the back, not as much. It's not as heavy as on the front, but it is very vaguely there, I think. And you've got the black here for the belt. You've got the belt buckle painted in silver there, looks good. You have the front like tabard piece with this really nice detailing on the front, made of a flexible plastic. Then he does have a soft goods skirt or lower robe or whatever, which I'm glad they went with soft goods here. It looks pretty good, actually. I think it matches up pretty well and melds well with the rest of the plastic. But for a character who is a lightsaber wielder, it's important to get a lot of leg articulation out of these figures. So soft goods, I think, was definitely the right call, as it doesn't hinder posability basically at all. The only weird thing I find is that the tabard or whatever, the soft goods and the pants and boots are all in this like bluish purplish color, which is a little odd, I guess. I was always under the assumption that like this was like black and gray, and there was no like bluish here. And maybe this is accurate to the design from the Clone Wars, and it's just the lighting in the show that makes it look black and gray. But yeah, this coloring is a little weird. I'd be pretty curious if it is actually accurate or not. However, I think it looks perfectly fine. I thought it was going to bother me more than it does, but it doesn't bother me that much. But I'll show you what I mean with the comparison here in a little bit. And you've got the armor on the legs and boots here, again, with some really nice silver paint and then brown like weathering that looks really good. And the armor has some ton of sculpted detail of just scrapes and nicks and cuts and whatnot. And even the buckles are painted, and painted pretty well too for the most part. And the soles are a different color as well for his boots. So quite a bit of paint. I'm pretty impressed with the amount of paint that went on the figure itself. You know, Hasbro Black Series, it's usually hit or miss. A lot of figures don't have enough paint. But this guy is quite a bit. Like I said, I'm impressed. In terms of articulation, he's also really well articulated. I gotta say, might be one of the best articulated Black Series figures they've made. You have a dumbbell joint at the head as well as the base of the neck, and you can get him looking down a bit, get him looking up quite a bit actually. A decent amount of pivot and then rotation. These shoulder pads are on those O-ring, so they're like the Stormtrooper shoulder pads, but they'll move with the shoulder, so they'll rotate with it, which is great. If you have a hinge and swivel at the shoulder, you can move it pretty much all the way out. It rotates. He has actually a pretty nice for Black Series butterfly joints. You know, there's quite a bit of movement there. You don't usually get that much with a Black Series figure. Single hinges at the elbows that move a little past 90, and they rotate at the hinge. There is also a swivel cut at the gauntlet, and he has the new dumbbell, like ball joint style wrists, so they can move any which way, which is really nice. Torso joint, he has a cut here and then a cut at the waist, so you do get your rotation, obviously. You get a decent pivot, and you actually get quite a good, or a decent, not a crazy crunch, but a pretty good natural looking crunch, which is rare on Black Series figures, and a decent arch back as well, so that's pretty cool. You got your hip joints, they kick out pretty far. They split pretty much all the way. There is no swivel cut at the thigh, but they do have like those more hollowed out hip joints, so you do get a bit of shifting movement there. Single hinge at the knee goes about 90 and rotates there. It also rotates at the boot. A hinge at the ankle that doesn't go too far up because it gets stuck on the sculpt of the armor. Goes down quite a bit, and rocker for pivot. So figure is very well articulated. I am pretty impressed with that. I'm just trying to see. And I've been able to get some really nice, natural, great looking dynamic poses with this guy. So that's been a lot of fun to do. And all the joints move really nicely, which makes it enjoyable as well. In terms of accessories, he doesn't come with a ton of stuff, but you do get a couple of pretty good things. Of course, he has to have his double-bladed lightsaber. This is a new sculpt. The blades look pretty good with red blades. I would have maybe liked maybe a slightly deeper red maybe because they're almost orangish red, but they still work perfectly fine. The hilt is new. It's sculpted well. It does have some nice paint apps with the black and the red, although this red button isn't painted. I don't know if that was intentional or not, or if it's just my copy. The only thing I don't like is that they cast it in a really like bright, like plasticky looking gray plastic. They didn't paint it silver. For as much paint as there was on the figure, I would have liked to have seen the hilt painted silver as well. I think that would have looked a lot better because the hilt does look a little cheap. However, I would have preferred if the paint had to go either to the hilt or on the figure, preferred on the figure. But that's cool. You can remove the blades, of course. You can have it just one blade, no blades. And actually, if I remove both the blades, he does actually have a loop on the hilt, and he does have a hook on his belt, and you can hook the hilt onto his belt. So that's really nice. Stays on there decently well. I mean, it just kind of hangs there, but that's how it's designed. Put these back in here for now. And then he also comes with his enchanted spear or battle axe or whatever that Mother Talzin gives him when he first joins up with like Count Dooku and sends him on his first mission. And kills all those clones and those two Jedi. You get the axe here, cast in like this gray plastic that has some nice little sculpted details, some Nixon on it, which is cool. Then nicely painted silver blade. This is the silver I would have liked to have seen on the lightsaber hilt. But the blade looks cool. It's made of a pretty sturdy plastic. It's not too bendy or anything, which is nice. So it won't really warp out of shape, and he can hold this pretty well. Looks good. If you want him to have that. Or, like I said, you have the lightsaber, and I'll be displaying it with the lightsaber more than likely, but it's nice to have the two different options. That's pretty cool. Get this in his hand here. There we go. And that looks great as well. That being said, would have been obviously ideal world to get more accessories. Interchangeable head with the horns cut off and maybe a different expression would have been cool. And then also having an interchangeable forearm with the prosthetic mechanical forearm would have been nice to have any of the looks you wanted from Savage. Obviously, that probably was out of budget. I'll give Hasbro a bit of a break there, as well as it's classic Hasbro to try to milk molds to get more figures out of them. So I imagine we'll be getting that version of Savage at some point. It would have been cool as well if they include the little necklace they use to define Darth Maul in the show. Maybe they could include that with a different version because it doesn't really make much sense to include the axe again. So yeah, I don't know, but still, the accessories he does have are pretty good. So I guess I'm gonna take this out of his hand just to make this easier for me. Now we will do some comparison because Savage is also a pretty large figure, which also helps to justify that more expensive price point. But getting Savage here, I guess first off, here he is with Darth Maul. And he is like a full head taller, maybe almost a head and a half taller than him, and obviously a lot wider, a lot bulkier as well. But the scaling here is accurate. He is, when Darth Maul is looking like this, he is a lot taller and larger than Maul. It'd be nice to get the earlier Clone War Maul with the more Grievous style legs. That would be super cool to get. Maybe they'll do that at some point. I'd like to see that. But you have that with a couple other deluxe figures. Here he is with Chrysanthemum and Malgus, who I would say are among some of the better deluxe releases. You can see they're all about the same size. Chrysanthemum, I would say, is almost a smidge taller. And even Malgus, I was expecting Savage to be a bit bigger than Malgus, but Malgus just must be one unit of a human because he's really tall. He is also maybe about the same height. Honestly, maybe it's just slightly taller than Savage. I will say, though, that Savage is actually the lightest of the three. Both Malgus and Chrysanthemum are both noticeably heftier figures. So food for thought, I guess. And then lastly, I gotta compare it with the old 3 3/4 inch Clone Wars series Savage Opress figure, which is still a good figure, but I would definitely love to see a new 3 3/4 inch realistic Savage, because they never did one of those. They'd really just have to pretty much scale down this Black Series one and call it a day, and they'd have a good one there. But you can see kind of the difference in color mainly on the bottom. This one's got the gray boots, black pants, and the black soft goods. This one's got this bluish purplish color. Yeah, I'm not sure which one's more accurate or not. I do kind of like the coloring on this one more. This one doesn't have any of the weathering, but in terms of just like the base colors, I like the darker colors more. But this still doesn't look bad. I'm just kind of surprised if this is actually accurate. I'm surprised this is the accurate coloring. But yeah, you got the faces there. The 3 3/4 inch one has a lot paler of a yellow. It is also a really old figure. I've had this for years and years, so it might be a bit faded. I don't know, but I definitely like the coloring on the new one a little more, or not a little, actually a lot more actually. Obviously, this one is based on the animation model, CGI model, and not realism, so they're going to be different in that way. But I think the translation here looks pretty good. But overall, I think that, like I said, this is an incredible figure from Hasbro. I am really impressed with this. Some of the stuff they've been putting out lately, I recently just reviewed the Prince Caesar as well. That's a really good figure too. Hasbro Star Wars has been kind of like a bit meh for me the past like half year. I didn't think last year was as strong as previous years, but they're kind of reeling me back in a little bit here because this guy is really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else is in store for this year. But yeah, overall, if you were a Clone Wars fan and definitely a fan of the character and dark side characters, 100% recommend this figure. Like I said, I think it's one of Hasbro's absolute best. They really did a good job on this one. I'm really happy with it. And currently, it is the best Savage Opress articulated figure you can get out there. There is a Hot Toys coming this year. I would love to be able to get that, but I highly doubt I will. I don't have the space, really, and it's expensive, so I probably won't buy it. But that one will probably end up being the best one. But yeah, this one's still great. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video. May the Force be with you.